All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. I'm pleased today, right now, we are joined by 5 classes from across North America, so I want to give them a chance to do a bit of a shout-out. We've got Miss Landrum's grade 4s in Kalispell, Montana. Hi, guys. We've got Miss Londos' grade 2s in Acton, Ontario. Very enthusiastic. We've got Miss Rumka's grade K's and 1s in Red Wing, Minnesota. Hey! Awesome. We've got Miss Hans's grade 7s in Austin, Texas. They're coming in. Hi, guys. Hello. I like the echo in the library. And then we've got Miss Plant's grade kindergartens in Mississauga, Ontario. Hi, guys. Hi. Awesome. That's fun. Of course, the reason you guys are here today is that we are joined by the Vermont Institute of Natural Science. So we're joined there by Anna Morris and colleague, who are going to show us a little bit about some amazing birds of prey and use them as ambassadors to tell us why they are such important facets of any ecosystem. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Anna. Thanks so much for joining us, and take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. Well, hi, everyone. It's good to meet you all. My name is Anna, and this is Nathan, and we both work at the Vermont Institute of Natural Science, which is a nature center right here in central Vermont. So we're having a pretty cold day, and we're due for a snowstorm over the weekend, so that's a little geography for you. And what we do here at the Nature Center is we educate people, and we hope to inspire people to care about the natural world. Because we know that the more that you care about something, the more that you want to take care of it, that you want to preserve it and let other people enjoy it as much as you do. So we use a lot of different educational tools, and one of them is our live animal ambassadors. So we have 2 of our bird ambassadors for you to meet today, and they might be doing some special things for you. They might be doing some flying here on camera. And you're welcome to ask any questions afterward. But first, I have a question for you guys, if anyone cares to answer this question, which is, what is a raptor?
So let's take that question to some of our classes. I can ask Miss Hans's class. You guys know?
What is it? Right there.
Okay.
There you go.
It's a dinosaur that's a bird thing. Or that's
dinosaur that's a bird thing. I like it.
I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. A dinosaur that's a bird thing. Yeah, so you're probably closer than you imagine. Most people, when they hear the word raptor, they think about dinosaurs because they think about Jurassic Park. But those dinosaurs that you're thinking of, those 2-legged, pack-hunting, meat-eating dinosaurs, those are related to birds. And not just the birds that are raptors, those meat-eating birds, but all the birds that you see in the skies today. So we're going to meet a hawk and a falcon. And so my colleague Nathan is going to go get our first one, and it will be a surprise because they're both behind me and I don't even know what he's going to get right now. And then we will talk about that bird, how it ended up at Vince, because all of our birds are originally from the wild, and what they're doing now, and also their unique features of their species. Because there's over 500 different species of raptors that exist in the world. Many of them live right here in North America. These 2 birds that we're going to meet today are both native to Vermont. So they're ones that if you live in this area, you'd probably be able to see. In fact, I think everyone here is native to, general North America, coast to coast. You've probably seen both of these birds. And I can see her over my shoulder. Nathan, what have we got? Ooh.
This is Bloomfield. Bloomfield is a red-tailed hawk. You can see how she gets her name. Her tail is kind of red. And this is among the most common of the raptors that you would find in and around North America. If you've ever been in a car riding on a highway or just down really any back road with some trees, you might find a red-tailed hawk just perched up either on the telephone poles or in a tree looking for their favorite food, which would be mice or squirrels or rabbits or really any small to medium-sized creature on the ground. And what Anna is doing right now is attaching a radio transmitter, which is our tracking system, because we are hoping to fly this bird back and forth here in less than a couple of minutes. And there's always a tiny chance that she flies out through the door and then we have to go and track her down. So this transmitter constantly beeps. We just can't hear it right now until we grab the radio receiver, which we have in the back. So I think we can get started on some flights. So each time this bird flies, she's going to have to start by thrusting off with her feet, just like you, if you were to jump off of a diving board. She starts by bending her legs and then boosting up into the air. And then, of course, you know what birds need to do in order to keep going forward. They have to flap their wings. So watch for her to flap her wings. Only birds don't just flap their wings up and down and up and down and up and down. They flap their wings more like a swimming person flaps their arms under the water as they're trying to propel themselves forward. There's an in motion and an out motion and a down, in and a forward and out and a down and in, over and over again. And each time Bloomfield flies to one of our gloves, she gets a delicious little piece of chicken for her efforts. Chicken is a type of meat, which means that it's a food that she really likes to eat. Being a raptor, she's a carnivore and only eats meat, really. If we were offering her little bits of lettuce or grapes or seeds, she totally would not be doing this right now. She'll only work for meat. You might also notice that Bloomfield's left wing droops down a little bit. I'll let you see her from the front for just a moment. It droops down a little lower than her right wing. And that is a relic, so to speak, of her injury. About 22 years ago, Bloomfield, as a juvenile young bird, collided with a power line and broke her left wing and couldn't really fly anymore. After a while, some human found her and brought her to us, a rehab center in central Vermont, and we were able to put her on supportive care and give her plenty of food to get her brought back up to health, but we couldn't correct her wing issue completely. So now she can do pretty much everything she needs to do in order to survive, except for fly very well. She can fly short distance flights on a stage like this, but she can't fly far enough or fast
Oh, see the birds, guys? Check it out.
enough to catch her food. So she stays with us so that she can get plenty of food. This bird species you can find all over North America, throughout Canada, the United States, and then Mexico. But as you start heading south, their range, it's not there anymore. You won't find them in South America or even most of Central America. We'll do 2 more flights. In the meantime, if anybody can consider any questions they might have regarding red-tailed hawks, I think we'd be happy to take a couple.
And then there's the times when she decides, maybe not this time. I don't know if it's worth it to go over there. Right on the last one, huh? 2 pieces.
So we might keep questions just because we have so many classes. We don't want to take 6 right now. So just if classes
That's totally fine.
hold their questions, that would be great. But remember red-tailed hawk and how beautiful it is. And I'm glad she didn't fly out the window too. That's pretty good.
Awesome. Do you have her leash?
I do.
So there's a little bit of equipment that goes into working with these birds. As you noticed, Nathan talked about the telemetry wire that she's wearing. She's also got these basically little leather bracelets around her legs. You can kind of see them if I tilt the camera a bit. Yeah, these two leather bracelets around her legs are called anklets, and they're attached to two long strips of leather called jesses. And those jesses I'm holding onto in my leather glove, and that just gives me a little bit of friction, a little bit of resistance against her trying to leave too early. So for example, if I was going to take her for a walk outside on a sunny day, and I didn't want her to decide to fly across the street and maybe get herself in danger, I would hold on to those jesses, and even if she did decide to leave the glove, she couldn't go very far. I've just reattached her leash, which is another thing that's basically just an extension of the jesses. I clipped it onto the glove. That allows me to wrap her up extra nice and safe if we're going for a long walk anywhere, or for right now, if she's gonna go back into her travel crate, where she will wait until we're done with the program and then go right back to her home. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sneak her back in her crate right now, and then I'll bring out the next bird that we're gonna meet.
So both of these birds that you're meeting here today, their favorite food happens to be that tiny little rodent we all know and love called a mouse. The red-tailed hawk's favorite foods, in order of preference, statistically speaking, are mice, followed by rabbits, followed by squirrels, followed by pretty much any other small to medium-sized creature on the ground. Now that's important. Red-tailed hawks primarily eat food that is on the ground. The next bird, also favorite food happens to be mice, spends a lot of its time hunting mice. That said, right up there with its favorite food, the mouse, is its other favorite food, insects.
Because, as you probably noticed, this little guy is quite the little guy. He's a lot smaller than the red-tailed hawk. I'm holding him way closer to the camera than I was holding the red-tailed hawk. There is Westford for you. Now, Westford is an American kestrel. You may have heard of kestrels before. They're found all over North America. And kestrel is just a term for a tiny falcon. You see kestrels in other countries too. They have the Eurasian kestrel in Europe and Asia, and we have the American kestrel right here in North America. So they're actually just a small falcon. And how falcons and hawks are different is there's actually a lot of different layers to that. Falcons and hawks are very different birds. Nathan was mentioning how they hunt is different. They spend a lot of time hunting things that are in the air, and they can do so because of their wings. Westford has pretty long wings, right? You notice that's one tip of his wing is all the way down here. And he's also got a pretty long tail for the size of his body. Those long wings and long tail let him be really, really maneuverable. He can turn on a dime. He can dip his tail into the wind and turn really fast around an obstacle like a bush or a tree branch or a fence, or follow the pattern of flight of a dragonfly, which are very fast. I've tried to catch a dragonfly in a butterfly net before. It's very, very hard. So he can do that with those long pointed wings, with his long falcon wings. Falcons are also different because you might notice he's kind of pretty colorful, right? He's got a lot of different markings, especially on his face. He's got these two long stripes coming down out of his eyes, if you'll look at the camera again. There you go. Those two long stripes are called malar stripes. All falcons have those, and the purpose is to help block the reflection from the sunlight from bothering him. But essentially, if his cheeks were white like the rest of his face is, he would get a lot of sunlight reflected up off of his cheeks into his eyes, and he would be blinded while he's trying to hunt. But having those dark stripes allows him to be shaded from that sunlight. It's the same reason why football players and baseball players will put paint under their eyes. It's to block the reflection of the sun. And neither the kestrel or the football player can wear sunglasses while they're doing what they're doing. So Westford here also flies we're going to do some flights with him, and I want you to pay attention and notice how they look different, the flights that Westford does, from the red-tailed hawk that we just met. He's also got to get his telemetry put on, which is one of his favorite things. You heard him make a little screechy noise before. Here, you can do it in the camera. Here. You heard him make a little peep before. You might hear him make some more noises right now.
Peep, peep.
There we go. Usually we discourage him from making noises in program, but it's kind of fun to hear. So Westford actually is an uninjured bird. He came to us as a young bird from another rehabilitator in northern Vermont who received him in a cardboard box on her front stoop. And she opened up the box, and inside was Westford. And he was a very friendly little kestrel. He actually landed on her head. And at that moment, she knew that he wasn't afraid of people. And that's pretty unusual for a wild animal, to not be afraid of people at all. So she figured that he had actually been raised by humans. And so he can't be released into the wild, not because he has a physical injury, but because he thinks of himself as a little person. And he wouldn't know how to find food, how to defend himself from predators, or what a girl American Kestrel might look like if he wanted to start a family. So that's why he lives here with us. But these guys play an incredibly important role in our ecosystems because you can consider them a farmer's best friend. They love to hunt in open fields and meadows, so places like agricultural land, somewhere that has a lot of mice, somewhere that has a lot of grasshoppers to eat. Those mice and those grasshoppers might be hanging out in the farm field because there's good stuff for them to eat. There's grain and grasses and grass seed. So if you have a kestrel living in your field, they will be eating all of those pests that are consuming the farmer's crops. It's a good idea if you want to encourage kestrels to live nearby to actually put up nest boxes, because they will nest in man-made boxes just like a bluebird or a tree swallow would. They're cavity nesters naturally, which means that they look for holes in trees for places to live. It protects them from predators and shelters them from the elements a little bit. And if you want to encourage them to live near your barn, you just have to look for the plans online. There's many, many good resources, including the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, that would help you build a kestrel box and set it up, so that hopefully these guys will come and live near you and take care of your mouse population, because they're very, very good at that. American kestrels are listed as a species of least concern right now on the Endangered Species List. Basically, that means that scientists are not really too concerned about how they're doing right now, because there's a lot of them, and their population is fairly stable. But in the Northeast, here in Vermont especially, goodbye. He likes to take a tour of the room sometimes. He just went and landed on a perch in the back of the room that in the past has led to big rewards, so he wants to go there. Unfortunately, though, the American kestrel has been in a pretty solid decline in the Northeast for the last few years, and the reasons for that are not altogether known. One reason may be the use of rodenticides, the use of poisons that people put out in order to kill mice and voles, kill the things that kestrels would normally eat that people don't like having around. If a kestrel eats a poisoned mouse, then they're going to get poisoned themselves. And so the thinking is that they can't tolerate that rodenticide in the ecosystem, and we're damaging their populations by using it. And now he's made the same decision that Bloomfield did. It's not worth it. There you go. Good job. All right. So yeah, here is Westford. Westford, we think, is between 2 and 3 years old. We're not 100% certain of his age because we don't know his full story. All we know is he was probably raised by humans, not by his own kestrel parents. And that's why he's here. The camera's over here. You gotta look right there. See it? Nope. Anywhere else. And I will tell you, this is always a fun fact, He is the smallest falcon in North America. American kestrels weigh typically about 100 grams, which is like a stick of butter or a candy bar. That's it. He may look a little bit heavier, but not more than 4 ounces. And yet, he's a raptor. He's a predator, just like the big old red-tailed hawk that we met. So I'm going to keep him out on Glove for questions, and maybe we'll get Bloomfield out too. If anyone has any questions to ask, I think now is the time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's head to Miss Landrum's class first. If you guys are talking.
You guys get up close so they can see you.
Which one's more deadly? Which one's more deadly? The smaller one or the bigger one?
Which one's more deadly? Was that the question?
More deadly.
More deadly. Oh, I think it depends what you are. Are you a caterpillar or are you a rat? If you're a caterpillar, I think you'd be worried about the kestrel and not as much about the red-tailed hawk. In terms of dangerous to humans, neither one of these birds are dangerous to humans.
Okay, great question. Good start to kick us off. Let's head to Miss Londo's class. Go for it.
How fast do falcons go?
How fast can falcons go? So the fastest animal on Earth is another falcon, not the American kestrel, but the peregrine falcon. And they've been clocked at over 240 miles an hour mid-dive. That is when they're diving down on top of their prey, something like a duck or a quail that's flying away from them. He's just worried about insects. So he could probably fly close to 75 miles an hour, which is, you know, not bad, right? For a stick of butter.
Yeah, faster than your car on a highway.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to say too, sorry, we have a group watching online on YouTube Live, so if you guys want to pass questions in the chat bar, I can pass them to the team in Vermont. So please do that. Don't be shy. While you're doing that, let's head to Ms. Ruth's class.
How does the red-tailed hawk communicate?
Talk really loud.
So how does the red-tailed hawk communicate? Great question.
Communicate.
The red-tailed hawk communicates either through body language to us or in the wild. You will sometimes hear the red-tailed hawk give its pretty impressive red-tailed hawk scream, and that's their territorial call. And I bet that most of you have heard the red-tailed hawk scream before, because if you've ever seen a movie that features a large bird making a sound, it's often just the red-tailed hawk played over that bird actual sound. So I'm not even going to try to mimic it, but they just scream really loud to mark their territory.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool information to know. I've never heard that from any of our other Raptor teams, so thank you. Just a quick sort of question related to right there with you guys. It's interesting that the birds are okay with each other that close. Is that a typical thing for Raptors at your facility, or?
Yeah, it's fairly typical. I mean, with the depth perception of the camera, they are about 3 feet apart, 4 feet apart right now. And we wouldn't really want them to be any closer to each other, but it's also out of habit. Bloomfield's been with us for 22 years. Westford's been here for 3 years. They both have had experiences being next to other raptors, and nothing exciting happens in terms of, like, that's not where their food comes from and never has been. So they're not really all that keen on each other unless they were to, you know, get closer, get within that personal bubble. One thing I've observed is that birds of the same species sometimes posture at each other more than others. So this little kestrel, this red-tailed hawk, they could care less about each other right now, but our 2 red-tailed hawks, they do care about each other. And they do look at each other, posture each other, seem to be a little more in tune with their own species.
Very cool. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's head to Miss Hans's class.
Do you make them work for their food?
Yeah. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, we do make them work for their food, except that if they don't actually work for their food, they still get all their food come the end of the day. We just hope that they will work for their food, and given the training regime that we have here, they usually gladly will work for their food. It's sometimes more fun to have to fly across a room for that piece of chicken than it is to just wait several hours until you get it. So yeah, they work for it, but also if they decide not to work for it, they're gonna get fed anyway.
Good to hear. We're all treating the birds nicely. Awesome. Let's go to Miss Plant's class. We should be good to go. Maybe. Sorry. Miss Plant, can you hear me? Okay, we'll come back to you guys in a minute, Miss Plant, just because your mic's not demuting. Try and demute your own mic at the top of your screen, and then we'll be good to go.
There it is.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Anybody have any questions for Taha?
Yeah, so we'll come to you in a second, Miss Leaney. Okay, so yeah, Miss Leaney's class, you guys can go now, Miss Plant's class. Then if you guys can't get the mic working, you can type it in the top corner, okay?
Yeah, but he's going to come back to it. But what's
Yep, all right, Miss Leaney.
Oh, of that species? Okay. Now I can't hear anybody.
Did you guys catch that question? I didn't catch it, sorry.
I did not hear a question.
Yeah, so Miss Leaney's class, you guys have a ton of reverberation in your room. So when you talk, it's too much echo. So try and type it in. We'll come back to you guys in a minute. Hopefully we can get the mic working. But in the meantime, if you type it in top left corner chat bar, we'll be good. While you're doing that, let's go back to Miss Landrum's class.
Luca, get there. Quick.
Hey.
Bend down.
Hi.
Okay, yeah.
How long does the falcon live?
How long will the falcon live? This guy has a lifespan in captivity, so living here with us, probably about 15 years, which is a good long time for a bird this small. In the wild, though, their average lifespan is more like 5 years.
Okay, so we're about to be live again on. Oh, guys, sit down, please.
There we go.
Everybody sit down, please. Okay, that was just.
It's not letting me mute them, so I'm trying, guys. There we go. Okay. Go again. Anna, yeah, you're good to go. Sorry, you were in the middle of answering it.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, their lifespan in the wild is significantly less because they do face a lot of challenges. Things like the rodenticides we were talking about, they often can get hit by cars, they can fly into a building and get themselves injured, and it's sometimes tough to find food in their first winter, whether they're migrating or staying where they are. They don't have their parents looking out for them in their first year. So often they don't live out their full lifespan in the wild, but those that do could live to be 12 or 15 years old.
Very cool. All right, so for Miss Plant and Miss Leaney's class, because we're having some audio issues and because there's too much reverb, I'm going to ask that you guys go to the chat bar. So the top left of your screen, there's a little blue square. If you type in questions there, feel free to type in a couple questions. I'll pass them on to our speakers, okay? So thank you. I'm sorry for that. It's not working. Yeah. Let's head to Ms. Londos' class. And if you guys have a second question, come on up.
How did the hawk hurt its wing?
Good question.
How did the hawk hurt its wing? It sounds crazy, but she flew into a power line. You know those lines that go along roadways that give power to our houses that are connected by telephone poles? The legend is, though none of us were around when this happened, the legend is that she was flying really fast and just hit the power line really hard with her left wing and then was caught under the power line with a broken wing. She couldn't really fly for a number of days before anyone found her and brought her to the rehab center. So it's a broken left wing via a power line.
All right. Well, no chance to be as clumsy in the future. You guys keep good care of her now.
Yes.
All right. Let's head to Ms. Rumpke's class again. You guys have a second question?
We'll stand over here. Talk super loud.
When do they lay them eggs?
Where do they lay their eggs?
So these two individual birds, first of all, Westford's a guy. He's not laying any eggs. Bloomfield does not have a boyfriend, so she's never laid an egg either. But if they were out in the wild, Bloomfield would build a nest of sticks that might be as much as 4 or 5 feet in diameter. So however you guys are tall, you're probably actually shorter than that. Like 2 of you together would be the size of a red-tailed hawk nest. Whereas the American kestrel, he likes to nest in tree cavities, in a hole in a tree, or in a box that someone built. And they just lay their eggs right there on the bottom, maybe among some wood shavings, but they don't actually build big stick nests.
Very cool. All right. Good question. Let's head to Miss Hance's class.
How do you find all the birds so quickly? How do you find all the birds?
How do we find all the birds? We just look under a rock. No. Most of the birds are brought to us by members of the public. So people that live in Vermont or New Hampshire, they bring the birds to us. If they find them injured, say, on the side of the road, or while they're out hiking, or just in their backyard, they'll bring in the bird, and then we care for it. We see about 450 to 500 patients like this through our hospital every year. And of those that survive, about 60% of them can be released, and the other will be placed, the other half of that will be placed elsewhere, either with us as education birds or at a nature center somewhere else in the country.
Outstanding. So we're ripping through these questions, guys. I'm going to try Ms. Leany's class again. Let's see if the audio might be a little better now. If not, you can type in your question. But yeah, guys, in Seaforth, if you have a question you want to try and ask.
But I can't get it going.
Okay. We'll come back. Okay, let's try now. Try. If you have a question, go for it.
Trevor, do you have a question? Trevor?
My question is, how many hawks are there in the world?
Question.
Ooh, how many hawks are there in the world? That's not a number I have in my brain. If I were to guess, so it's less than 300, but it's more than 100. How's that? You should look that up and then report back.
Yeah.
That's species of hawks, not individuals.
That's right.
No, individuals would be very hard to count. We encourage all the classes and try and count hawks, but it's a good question. It's hard to find online too. I'm trying to find out the answer. Oh well, we'll get there. All right, let's head back. You know what? We can do another round of questions and then we'll wrap up. So let's start with Miss Landrum's group.
Paulina. Get up there. Go now. Oh. Get your face and talk into the camera. Go.
How fast are both of them? Like, how fast can they go?
How fast can they go? The kestrel's faster than the red tail. I've heard a statistic of top speed of a kestrel in a dive, so falling down out of the sky is about 75 miles an hour, whereas red tails are quite a bit slower. They too can dive down on top of their prey, but that's not their typical mode of travel. And so if they're just flat out flying, probably not more than like 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. We know that red tails cannot keep up with the jackrabbit, and we know that jackrabbits can run at 50 miles an hour.
Wow. Very cool, guys. I also want to note, so according to the only resource I found that gave me a number of hawks, it was 288 in the world. So just under 300, you got
it. Between 300 and 100.
It is. Cool, guys. Let's head to Ms. Lalandos' class.
Okay, ready?
How big are the hawk and the falcon's wings?
Ah, yes. How much does Bloomfield weigh today?
Oh, I think he said wings.
A wing. How big are their wings?
Yeah.
Is that what? Wings. Yes, wingspan. You can get her to open them. Whee!
There we go. I think it's like 3.5 to 4 feet is what they put red-tailed hawk wings at, and that's fully outstretched.
Whereas the Kestrel is not more than like 1.5 feet, 18 inches, I'd say, would be his full wingspan.
And just offhand, what's the largest bird of prey? How big are its wings? And what would it be?
If you count vultures among birds of prey, then the largest bird of prey, the largest flying bird in the world, has a 9.5-foot wingspan, and its name is the California condor. Very
cool. And what a great conservation story for the classes. You should look up California condors after we're done here today, because it's a really great case. All right, we'll take a last few questions. Let's go to Miss Rumka's class.
So we have a scroll around.
Yep, Miss Rumka, if you answer the third question. Oh, come on up, you're good.
What do the birds do?
What do the birds do at the Raptor Center?
What do they do at Vin's?
At the Raptor Center.
Oh, at the Raptor Center.
Much like what you just saw. In fact, we give daily on-site programs for visitors that show up to our nature center, which in the winter time, it's not all that many, but in the summer, we see hundreds of people. So they come out, they sit on our gloves, they fly back and forth like you saw them do, and we teach about them. The rest of their day, when they're not in program, they get to hang out in their aviary. They get to bathe and eat food and play with enrichment toys. Yeah.
And this is actually similar to what they'd be doing in the wild, whereas they'd be spending about 90% of their time just perched in a tree or just kind of lazily soaring. And then the rest of it would be hunting, which is what they do here, only we call it flying for programs. But it's the same thing in their head.
Very cool. And sounds like a fun day. Like you're eating, you're teaching people. It's a good time. All right, let's head to Miss Hance's class. If you guys have a last question.
Hi.
Hi.
How old can they be?
How old can they be? So yeah, our little Kestrel, probably 15 years. He's 3 right now. The red tail, much longer.
I think the oldest red tail in the wild was either 30 or 32 years old. I can never remember.
We'll just call it 1. Perfect. All right, and then we'll take one last question. Hopefully the mic's working from Miss Lee's class. If you guys have a last question for us, go right ahead. Hey, any questions? No? Okay. Well, there you go. Guys, what we'll do is if you guys have any last messages for classes that might want to learn more about birds, whether through your center or generally, anything to share?
Yeah, totally. So we're so glad that we got to meet you guys today, and I loved answering your questions. And if you have more questions, there are a lot of great resources. I mentioned the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They have a whole website called All About Birds. Any bird in the United States that you're curious about, that website will tell you pretty much anything you want to know. And if there is something that is not answered on there, you're always free to email us. We love getting emails. info@vinsweb.org. I'm sure Jesse can pass that along, and I will send our emails to him. So if you have any other questions, any lingering thoughts, feel free to reach out to us.
Great. And I also want to pass on to the classes. Like, just look outside. Look for birds of prey. It's still one of my very favorite things since I was a very little kid, is seeing a hawk perched on a wire. It makes me very distracted when I'm driving, which is bad. But they're amazing, beautiful animals, and go check them out. All right, so boys and girls, I'm about to demute everyone's microphone. So if you guys get ready to say a huge thank you to our team today. Yeah, Ms. Londos, Ms. Rumka, Ms. Hannes. Awesome, guys. All right. So yeah, please do look up more. We're happy to pass along that email, and we hope to have many more hangouts with you guys. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Anna and Nate, that was great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.